Hi, I'm State Senator Anthony Sykes, and welcome to the Sykes Update for this week. This was the second week of hearing bills on the Senate floor, and we were very hard at it, averaging about 50 bills a day, and most of those bills had at least one, if not two or three amendments on them. Some of the things I'd like to talk to you about this week are, the first thing is Senate Joint Resolution 59. Now, I know you might have heard something about it, but let me explain what this is. This measure is authored by State Senator Jim Reynolds and reduces the 5% mandatory increase to capping it at 3% of a mandatory increase or the rate of inflation. You may recall back in 1996, voters went to the polls and thought they were capping their property tax increase at 5%. Well, the word cap is really a misnomer in this situation. What it is, it's a mandatory increase. Several county assessors have taken that to mean that they must, meaning it is mandatory that they raise your property taxes by 5% every year. This was not what was intended in the statewide referendum in 1996, and this measure is going to address that. It does not take any money away from the schools. Rather, it just slows the rate of increase. Further, there were several compromises made. It doesn't apply to corporate property. It only applies to homestead. So even if a person does own multiple homes, they're only going to get to accept one of those to the 3% cap. This is something that we need to protect our seniors from being taxed out of the home that they worked their whole life for, and also for our hardworking families here that see their property taxes increasing at a much higher rate than inflation. Over the past 25 years, the inflation rate averages at 2.7%. So the 5% cap was almost doubling the 2.7%. This is something I was happy to support because it's something I campaigned on. And when I was going door to door in my campaign, the number one issue that constituents brought up to me, meaning that when I would go to their door, I would introduce myself, tell them I was running for state senate, here's what I stood for. But in their response to me, the number one issue at the door that they told me about was this 5% cap and the abuse going on there. I campaigned on it and I was happy to vote for it and look forward to getting it back from the House with the title on to sending it to a vote of the people. And that's another thing you have to keep in mind. This does not do anything except send it to a vote of the people to let the people decide, and I believe that the people are smart enough to decide how big or how little they want their government. Earlier on the Sykes Update, I talked to you about my agency request bill that was going to identify which agencies are requesting what bills and make it available on the Taxpayer Transparency website. Last year we passed Senate Bill 1, which was the Transparency Act, where now you can go on the internet and find out what your government's doing and where they're spending their money. This is going to take that even further. I'm happy to say that Senator Tom Adelson of Tulsa has co-authored this legislation and offered an amendment to even expand it to lobbyist request bills. So from now on, when a registered lobbyist requests a bill, they're going to have to inform the Office of State Finance that they requested this bill, and it's going to be on the Taxpayer Transparency website so you can see what bills, what lobbyists are requesting, and who's carrying those bills. I'm happy to have Senator Allison's support. Also this week, I was happy to have Lily Lavelle of Bridge Creek High School page for me. It was a pleasure having her here, and I know that she'll be very successful in the future, and wish her all the luck at OCU next year. So once again, thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Sykes Update, and invite you back next week for another edition of the Sykes Update.